All right, folks, it is Virginia Tech. It's West Virginia coming up tonight at Lane Stadium. Kickoff at 7:30. And, of course, to get a feel from the blue and gold side of this rivalry, of course, Blue and Gold Nation. We got Anjelica Trinone, or Gold and Blue Nation. I got to reverse that a little bit. Same order. I'm sure they don't mind. Anjelica, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, hooking us up with our live at Lane preview.
Well, hey, everybody calls us Blue and Gold Nation, so you're certainly not the only one. I think whenever you get the colors in there, you know who we represent, Jermaine.
Yeah, and gold is more valuable than blue, from what I heard.
Yeah, but you know, you can't, around these parts, if you put blue before the gold, that means Pitt. That's why we're very particular about making sure that gold comes before blue.
That's true. And speaking of Pitt, of course, West Virginia fans are playing their second Thursday night game. Their first one, again, one of the rivalry games. Of course, they came up a little bit short. But now another rivalry game for West Virginia. They get a chance to play the Hokies tonight. And I'm sure there's a big buzz. I mean, a tough loss to Pitt. But I'm sure there's another opportunity for West Virginia in another rivalry game.
Well, Jermaine, that's exactly right. And that's how the coaching staff frames it. That's how the players frame it. What a unique opportunity to, one, play for a trophy in the middle of the regular season, right? Just something, another added layer to this game here. But for West Virginia, it's almost a chance to have the opposite outcome of what it was able to do week one. You just brought it up, a rivalry game Thursday night on the road, a rowdy atmosphere, which is exactly what everybody in this program is expecting in Blacksburg. And I think for West Virginia, it's also an opportunity to show that it's not the same team that it has been showing out on the field, especially whenever it comes to the defensive side of the ball. So I know it's an opportunity for West Virginia to get in this rivalry game, but for the Mountaineers, it's also an opportunity to prove that they're better than what they've put on tape over the past few weeks.
And it seems like with both teams, I mean, Virginia Tech lost that tough one to open up things against Old Dominion, a game they felt they should have won. But on the flip side, West Virginia fans feel like, hey, they could be 3-0, leaving a game on the table against Kansas, as well as leaving a game on the table against Pitt. From the mindset of West Virginia and what they're trying to accomplish, what do you think will be the keys for them to have success? Because this is, I mean, a lot of emotions when you talk about a rivalry game.
Well, you know, Jermaine, you bring up both of those games. I think what makes them even more frustrating, disappointing whenever you look at the Kansas and Pitt losses is they almost ended in the exact same way. A pick six ended up being the dagger for West Virginia. And in the Pitt game, the Mountaineers really went toe to toe with the Panthers, back and forth until really that play, and they just ran out of time. You almost didn't see that same urgency whenever West Virginia was up against Kansas. It was almost one of those feelings to where you were wondering how they would be able to come up with a play to have the answer, get the 2-point conversion. So I think for West Virginia, a lot of the focus coming in against Virginia Tech is going to be showing that it can play a complete game. It can play complete against an opponent. And where I think one of the biggest keys in this game is going to be is if CJ Donaldson in this West Virginia run game can get through the Hokie defense, right? He is somebody who has really jumped off the page, and even talking with the coaches, they're like, hey, a freshman running back that we recruited here as a tight end. He's only played 3 games now at the running back position ever in his life. They knew that he was going to be a stud, okay? I don't think that they knew that it was going to be this quickly into the game and he was going to be able to pop off those types of runs. So I think this year for West Virginia, if it wants to be able to have that success, it has to do so on the ground. And what better opportunity to show you can have a great rushing attack than against a great rushing defense like they'll see this Thursday night.
And one guy that really knows a lot about holding on that trophy, Doug Nestor. Last year against Virginia Tech, they gave the trophy, the athletic director gave the trophy to Doug Nestor, a former Hokie, now a Mountaineer. So now it's kind of coming back full circle. He's going to get a full dose of what the Hokies will handle. If you guys had an opportunity to talk to Doug Nestor, and if you have, I mean, obviously he's got to be fired up for another crack at his former team.
Well, we haven't had a chance to talk to him this week, but we have talked to the coaches about it. And we heard from him last year as well. And the answer to that is he's not really looking at it as a chance to get, you know, back at his old team, get a win over some guys that he played with. For Doug, I think it's an opportunity to show that he really is. I mean, this West Virginia team has plenty of West Virginia natives on it, especially up there on the offensive line. So you have Doug Nestor, you have Wyatt Milam, you have Zach Frazier. I think Doug fits into that mentality. And more than anything, I think he just wants to show that, WVU, that's his home school. He's from West Virginia. I think he wants the opportunity to show he's ready for any occasion. Of course, it would be great for him to be able to do so, against a team that he played for. But I think Doug is looking more at it, at least from talking to him last year and the coaches. He's just looking at it as another opportunity to represent West Virginia, represent his home state, and do so with those guys up there that I talked about on the offensive line, and just really that blue collar West Virginia mentality. So there hasn't been much said in terms of Doug in that instance. But of course, I mean, I think we all can agree it's got to be in the back of his mind, right? So while we haven't actually heard him say that, I think that is something safe to assume that if you need any extra motivation, I'm sure Doug Nestor has just the thing for that.
Indeed. Golden Blue Nation's Anjelica Trinone joining us right now as we have Live at Lane. And one final question. Obviously, it's a Thursday night game. And when you think of Thursday nights, Virginia Tech has been kind of the gold standard. They invented Thursday night football, connecting it with ESPN. But of course, these two teams met in the first ever Thursday night game between Virginia Tech, West Virginia, with the Hokies winning back in 1994. Obviously, a lot of the players weren't even born yet, and it's been, you go 10 years later, 2004, the last time the Hokies and the Mountaineers met in Lane Stadium. And the Mountaineers, they've sold out their allotment of tickets, and I'm sure Mountaineer fans trying to still get tickets to the game. But it's got to be exciting for this to be a Thursday night game, the setting of Lane Stadium, and the Mountaineers making the journey across the border to Blacksburg to their hated rivals.
I mean, that atmosphere in the backyard brawl was one of the most fun, most electric, most chaotic thing that I ever experienced in my 8 years with this WVU football team. I think they're expecting that same thing. Talking with Dante Stills, a West Virginia native, earlier this week, he said he loves big games. He loves the fact that it's on the road, and they think that playing in that backyard brawl atmosphere is going to at least give the younger guys and the newcomers who are going to be relied on for this team, they're not going to have those same type of jitters as maybe they would against Pitt, because in the back of their mind, they're like, hey, we went to the backyard brawl atmosphere. That got us pumped up. They are expecting that same thing from Hokie fans. And Dante said it too. He said, whenever we go in there, we know that there's going to be a lot of gold and blue. West Virginia fans, they travel well. They travel often. Normally, they got to go to Texas. They got to go to Oklahoma. So they're more than happy that this year they had the opportunity to not only go to Pittsburgh for the backyard brawl, but like you talked about, a lot of these players don't really understand what these rivalries are, what they're about. Obviously, they did play last year for the Black Diamond Trophy, but I think for West Virginia, the opportunity to have these two rivalry games on the road against two of these programs who the fan bases surely know a lot about each other, I think that just adds even more excitement for the players. And I know that this atmosphere is definitely going to live up to the expectations that everyone involved with the West Virginia football program has.
I tell you what, Anjelica Trinone, AT, Golden Blue Nation, and breaking it down, giving us a little flavor of the West Virginia Mountaineers as they take on the Virginia Tech Hokies. That's coming up. Kickoff set for 7:30. Anjelica, thank you so much, kid. I appreciate you. And as usual, you rock the scene up there.
Hey, thanks so much. Back at you. Can't wait to see you in Blacksburg.